if I'm in line with the light cycle, my light signaling, I am more likely to have balanced on-off switches, growth and deterioration switches, right? So I could be eating all this animal-based protein at 2 a.m., but at 2 a.m., my body is still wanting to produce melatonin. If I'm eating at 2 a.m., I'm not going to be producing melatonin at night, right? If I'm eating at 12 a.m., I'm not going to be producing melatonin at night. I'm going to be secreting insulin. I'm going to be secreting my growth factors. And that's what happens with the body. It gets confused and we start using our energy in weird ways. Weird ways. Mitochondria, if you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you go into the sunlight, you're asking your mitochondria to replicate themselves. If I eat a amino acid and fatty acid dense meal, I'm asking my mitochondria to replicate themselves. Through a fast, right? Through meditation, through slowing down my brainwave states, communicating with my vagus nerve, all my organ centers, I'm asking my mitochondria, because mitochondria, they communicate directly with oxygen, which is so fascinating, right? And that's one of the biggest functions of muscle mass in the body is if we have more muscle mass, we have more mitochondria. We have a higher capacity for oxygen levels. Everything in disease states is higher acidity, lower oxygen levels. So if I'm building muscle in my body, muscle is the hallmarker of longevity. I'm going to be communicating intimately with my brain and with the whole rest of my body. So if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And, if you give false triggers, there's no easy way out. That's what my neighbor says. She's like, Rachel, you're so young. She's like 80. She says, it's great that you are having all these experiences and that you have the knowledge to be, balanced and grounded. She's like, always stay grounded, but there's not an easy way out. Like, you still have to go through these daily habits and these daily practices. How can I put muscle mass on my body? I can't do that by just laying in bed. Although Joe Dispenza talks about how he's done studies on people who have meditated on doing bicep curls and they've built more muscle mass. The placebo effect is real. And we know that from people who, in a sugar pill trial versus the actual medication, the placebo effect is really, really strong and very effective. So the power of mind is there. But yeah, like in the same way, like I wish I could fast forever and just always feel full. But it appears that we have to eat and exercise and be part of the light cycle in order to have our health. So I think that's beautiful. One of the other things, a gentle stretch. One of the other things I was thinking about this morning was again the topic of divorce and dementia. So maybe this is divorce and dementia round 8, maybe that I'm on. But like when you don't feel good, when you're struggling with your health, when your mitochondria is diminished, you don't see the world accurately. You see it through a lens of fatigue. And through the lens of fatigue, colors are not as vibrant. And also, like, people are not as nice, right? Everyone else is fatigued. If I feel fatigued, I'm just going to put that perception on everybody else. Everybody else must be having a terrible time if I'm having a terrible time. How could you be enjoying this? It's awful here. The world is in a terrible place. However, if you were to decide divorce and dementia, so when we're undernutrient, we feel fatigued, everything, we're going to a place of dementia, Alzheimer's, dementia, everything, any chronic disease that could elevate, any neurological disease, right? The body needs nutrients. It needs nutrients in order to function and to see clearly. When you start giving yourself the proper light exposure and feeding nutrient-dense foods, exercising on a daily basis, your vision becomes clearer, things become brighter, people become nicer. And because it's like you are then experiencing your own energy and then you are, projecting that on to other people. Like, the world is a better place, they say. Like when you see yourself in a better lens, the world becomes a better place. And we don't see ourselves accurately. Like what I always say, when we look in the mirror, we don't see those trillions of tiny cells. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. reminds me just doing your own research. Sorry, I took a dramatic pause there. But our autoimmune rates are really high, mental health rates are really high, dementia and Alzheimer's is rising. So, how do we get back? What is the hallmarker of all of these diseases? Like Dr. Ray Newport talks about this, insulin resistance, like light resistance. Insulin is responsible for bringing energy into the cell. And, I'm a big fan of the physical side, but I've become, in the last few years, more enthralled, I guess is the word, with the spiritual side. So, like, you could be doing all the right things in your physical life, but if you feel like you're in the wrong place, your metabolism is going to be out of whack. If you're not in line with what I would say your soul is like calling you to do, like people invite you to go somewhere, and in your internal body you feel tense and like you want to say no, but then you say yes and you go because you feel obligated, or you feel like you should, or blah blah blah. It's like your thoughts and your actions are out of sync, out of line. Like, how do you get back in line? And one of the things I started doing, because I was in this really, since high school, college, since I started to try and like get my health back in order, it was always like, Rachel, you have to get up and exercise. You have to do this. You have to do this. Blah, 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 blah. And then last year, I was really slowed down to a halt, where I was only able to meditate basically and eat like liver, eggs, ground beef, cut out sugars, cut out caffeine. I was very fatigued. And it was like the spiritual component to metabolism and to health is just as important as the physical. So asking for guidance, because like your body is so intelligent. May you always be blessed with the clarity to know what is and what isn't meant for you. If you ask yourself, what could I do this morning? What could I do right now that would help alleviate my mental stress and my mental fatigue? Like, what would that look like? And also, especially for women, like we have a more fluid clock cycle, being that we have menstrual cycles. Like, unlike men are on a 24-hour biological clock. We have like a 28-hour clock. It's greatly influenced by the stress of the environment that we face. So there are times of the month where we don't recover as fast. There are times in the month that we do recover quicker. Times in the month where our insulin wants to be lower, and then times where insulin wants to be higher. So it's this more fluid approach that I tried to ask myself, what is it that I need to do today, or that I could do today, that would make me or help me to feel more in line with myself. So I do that every morning now, instead of like forcing myself into a masculine oriented routine where it's pushed through it no matter what. Because I was so slowed down by this mentality last year, it is now like, what would help me to feel more in line with myself? I wake up in the morning, I'm like, please guide me, guide my decisions, and maybe that's like doing the dishes or doing laundry or doing something like cleaning my bathroom. It's like these really simple tasks that like helps alleviate this anxiety and this tension, and that, like, again, you could be doing all the right things, eating the right foods, doing the exercise, going into the sunlight, and like you keep hitting this resistance. What is this resistance? I keep feeling fatigued and burnt out. That's your body saying, look, you're not in the right place. Because if you were in the right place, like, health is your birthright. To feel good, you feel God. That's what one of my favorite YouTube channel people say. When you feel good, you feel God. You feel part of the quantum field. You feel filled with energy and light. You feel whole and energized. When you are disconnected, when you're divorced, when you're in a demented state, you feel in separation. You feel fatigued. You feel under obligation to do certain things. And then one of the other things that has helped me is, if there's something I don't want to do, is how can I enjoy this? And I found that from Joe Hudson. He's on YouTube if you want to go look and find him. Joe Hudson. He talks about how we're always having emotions coming to the surface, and a lot of times we suppress them. But what would it mean to fully experience these emotions and just like let them flow and come through, so that things don't feel stuck? We don't feel anxious and angry and, these lower emotions. Yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go. I love you so much. You can like, share, and subscribe if this was helpful for you. I hope it was in some way. It's just one day at a time. Your habits stack. Your habits stack. Who are you without a memory? And the memory, like, your memory of yourself is like, who am I? What is my family structure? Where do I live? What state am I in? What's my address? This is me, this is me, this is me, this is what I do. And through the course of dementia, we forget that state. I don't identify, I go to the grocery store and I end up driving to Mississippi or something, right? That's what happens with dementia patients. They forget who they are, and it's fascinating. The memory center is very connected to the cerebellum, little brain in Latin. So anytime you exercise your body, you're doing those calf raises or anything, cerebellum, anytime you do that, you're strengthening your memory center. You're strengthening the processing speed of the frontal cortex. You're strengthening the belief in the connection in who you are, which I think is so beautiful, gorgeous. We are so intelligent and so beautiful, and also limited in our perception. So next time you go look in the mirror, just remember, faith is your fortune. If you don't like what you see, close your eyes and feel into your heart. That's what I always say. Faith is your fortune is from Neville Goddard. If you haven't heard of him, he's great. He was like a spiritual philosopher, but talks about how we attract what our feelings and our body attract the circumstances into our life. So if you feel happy and joyful, you will attract experiences that are happy and joyful. If you feel fatigued and tired, you will also attract those same circumstances and people. And the cycle is in your favor. That's what he talks about. So anyway, I'm going to go. I love you so much. You can like, share, and subscribe, but I'll catch you later.